So what does that mean? That we weigh our own experiences? That I weigh my own experiences above everything else? And that influences my beliefs?
What do you think?
I think, yeah, I just admitted to it.
So we're here with, what was your name again?
My name's Ciaran.
Ciaran?
Yeah.
Can you spell that for me?
It's Ciaran.
Okay, awesome. That's a cool name. What are you named after? Are you named after anything?
Nothing really in particular. My dad is from Dublin.
Dublin, okay.
And he came over when he was 19 and he wanted to keep Irish names in the family.
Oh, cool. So it's an Irish name.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
it means small dark one.
Small dark
And
one.
I'm doing my best to live up to it. So,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I like kind of investigating names and how they're meaningful. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So just to make sure it's okay if we're record and
Yeah.
upload this.
Yeah.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to have this interview. So just to kind of recap of what I'm doing here is it's called Street Epistemology. Like one of these guys here. And it's a way to have a conversation. It's a set of conversation tools that allow us to investigate the reliability and the methods that you're using to arrive at a conclusion that you have. And so we kind of talked a little bit about that. Does that make sense at all so far? Do you have any questions about that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
interested in breaking some of this stuff down.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Kind of breaking it down.
Yeah. Henry,
So what
Sit. Sit.
what we're going to try to do is take a conclusion that you have that you think is true, And I'm going to ask you questions from a neutral perspective to get a better understanding of how you arrived at that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything in mind that we can explore?
Not really. Can you give me some examples of what other
Sure.
folks you've interviewed have used?
Yeah, some conclusions have to do. It's helpful if it affects your behavior, and that it's something that you're fairly confident in. So some people might talk about vaccines.
Sure.
Some people might talk about like supernatural conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Anything like that affects your behavior. Because if it doesn't affect your behavior, it tends to be not as interesting.
Sure. Well, I guess just pulling from what's been going on recently in my life. I've been dealing with some back injuries, and the conclusion or belief that doing core stability drills daily is going to reduce the instances of back spasms.
Okay.
Is something that's significantly shaped my daily habits over the last year and a half.
Did you have an injury, or is this just something that's been coming on?
I did have an injury, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I like powerlifting, and about a year and a half ago, I was lifting some heavy weight for me, and my back felt pretty tight after my top set, and I got into a low squat to kind of stretch out and had a back spasm that put me on the ground. I had a couple days off work, and since then I've had recurring back pain and spasms, and read a bunch of different books by different chiropractors and doctors and biomechanics professors, seen a couple different doctors, chiropractors, sports chiropractors and PTs to try to find, I guess, the answer that I want, that I can keep doing what I like to do, which is lifting weights. And I work a pretty physical job, and certainly had the thought of, if my back isn't working, I'm going to have to find a new career. So
your career and your livelihood is dependent on what you find out about your back.
Yeah.
I have to say, I can relate. I recently had a back injury. I crashed on my mountain bike.
Oh yeah.
I won't go into it. Just know that I feel you, man. I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's scary. So what is the conclusion that we're going to explore?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a solid, usable conclusion for the exercise, but I was thinking that because you wanted something that shapes daily behavior, my behavior has been changed significantly with core stability and soft tissue drills in the effort to reduce instances of back pain and prevent further injury, to continue what I like to do and work in being productive.
We can explore the efficacy of these drills that you're doing, maybe?
Sure.
So would the claim be, and don't let me put words in your mouth.
We can do something else too if this is not an ideal topic.
No, this is fine. I just want to make sure that I understand the conclusion. You're saying that doing these drills is going to prevent, or is going to make the likelihood that you can continue in your livelihood higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, we can definitely explore that, unless there's a different conclusion that you want to explore. This one's fine.
No, I was having trouble thinking of anything.
No, this is great. This is great. All right. I'm going to ask you a question about putting yourself on a scale. And the scale goes from 0 to 100. 0 means you're not confident at all. You only have questions. And 100 is you have no questions, complete confidence. So on this scale, where would you put your confidence that this conclusion is factually accurate?
I would say about 95.
95?
95. I think it's pretty factually accurate.
Okay. That's pretty high.
All right.
How, on this same scale, how important is it for you, for your conclusions to be accurate? Just in general, not necessarily specifically in this conclusion, but in general, how important is it for you to be believing true things?
It's very important. I try to, I'm somebody who wants to always make the right decision, usually based in fact and logic, and I will kind of stew or weigh decisions after they've happened and review situations, what if, and kind of look at it from every angle that I can, just to make sure or reaffirm that was the right thing to do. And sometimes it wasn't, but I think that just shows that I want to make the right decisions, or to make factually accurate decisions.
Let me repeat back what I think you're saying,
Okay.
so that I make sure I understand. You're saying that the decisions that you make, you want to have reliable ways of coming to those. And sometimes you find out they're the wrong decision, but it's important for those decisions to be based in things like logic, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So would you be comfortable putting a number on that importance to having those conclusions be accurate, like on that scale?
The importance of the conclusions that I draw being accurate. I mean, I think I'd like every conclusion that I would draw to be accurate every single time. And
That's how important it is.
But-
It's very important for you to have accurate conclusions. This is what you're saying, right?
yeah,
So would you put that at 95 also?
yeah,
Or?
yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Cool.
Obviously, that's not realistic to have every conclusion we make be accurate.
Sure.
But in a perfect world, I would want every single one to be
That'd be
accurate.
your preference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's great. How confident, or how much does this conclusion affect your behavior on that scale? Like 0, where it doesn't affect your behavior at all, 100% it affects your behavior 100% of the time.
I think 100%. I think it's changed in the last year and a half, changed the way that I go about my days, the way that I move, the way that I do my job. It's changed almost everything in one way or another.
So this conclusion affects your behavior a great deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Cool. You said you're at 95 that this conclusion is true. Is there any criteria that you could learn that would raise your confidence?
That's a good question. I don't know. My knee-jerk response is objective data from myself. If I get the positive results in 1 year, 5 years, whatever, that I'm looking for, then that would raise my confidence.
Okay.
But, one case study is not as reliable.
Okay. Can you think of anything that would make it go from 95 to 96? Anything specific?
The more I hear other success stories, people with similar injuries who rehab them successfully, or I read a book. One of the books I read when I first got hurt was written by a guy named Stu McGill, who's a very renowned spine biomechanic chiropractor, and he wrote it in conjunction with a guy named Brian Carroll, who's a world record holder in powerlifting.
Okay.
And Brian Carroll just totally destroyed his back, way worse than I did. And in the book, it kind of goes back and forth through Brian Carroll and Stu's perspective, and kind of goes through the mental battle that Brian Carroll struggled with after his injury, and ends with he sets a new world record in the squat.
Okay.
So just reading that book, I think, raised my confidence from 50% to 80%.
Okay.
So the more success stories I hear, raise that a little bit more.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, the book you read that put it in kind of a framework that you were familiar with as far as like powerlifting and stuff.
Yeah.
Was it helped raise your confidence in that claim.
Yeah.
Okay. If you read another book like that, would that also raise your confidence even more?
I think so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Is there any information you could learn that would lower your confidence?
Absolutely. When I have talked to coworkers who have had similar injuries, who have had to stop doing activities or jobs that they liked to do in the past due to their injury, or have movement restrictions because of injury, that certainly reduces or lowers my confidence in the conclusion.
So hearing about more experiences from other people in which that didn't work, that would lower your confidence?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is there a way to test this conclusion to see if it's factually accurate or not?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm sure that studies have been done. I can't think of one to reference, but I think if we took a large sample size of guys with similar injuries, disc herniations and the thoracic and lumbar spine, and had one group doing these exercises and another group doing nothing, and then comparing their relapse rates into pain and frequency of pain and severity, I think over probably 5, 10, 15 years would be a good way to test it.
So a robust control group style study
Yeah.
that showed that it was not true, that would lower your confidence in it being true.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if I asked this already, but I probably should have. What's your main reason for supporting your 95% confidence?
There's a couple different reasons.
What's the reason that holds the most weight?
The credibility of the professors and providers who teach these methods, and the successes that they individually have touted. There's a handful of literature that's been published that supports this style of recovery. I think that's the main reason that I believe that 95% is accurate.
The conclusions of people that have tried this is your main reason for thinking that this method is effective.
Not so much conclusions of people that have tried it, but conclusions of clinicians that implement it.
Okay.
So while the conclusions of individuals is weighted, certainly, maybe incorrectly or correctly, I weight the conclusions of somebody with PhD or someone who has who has rehabbed a bunch of strong athletes higher than the conclusions of somebody that I know personally. Just because maybe they've got a professional background and I expect a certain level of credibility from them that is higher than a person that I know. Does that make sense?
The credentials of the people running the study.
Yeah.
Okay. The credentials of people running the study being high credentials, we'll say, that informs your main reason for thinking that the conclusion is accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what's sometimes hard about asking these questions. Sometimes they may sound like I'm challenging you.
Sure.
But they are sincerely coming from a neutral perspective. So keep that in mind when I ask my next question.
Okay.
Which is, why is that a good reason?
Why is it a good reason? Well, I think the folks running the studies supposedly have years of education studying the topic that they're studying. They have a resume of other studies they've performed, thousands of hours in clinic caring for patients with similar injury types. I think all of those things support their credibility.
Like the observable results from multiple tests that they've conducted. That is what gives that reason merit.
Yeah, this is kind of their specialty, their field of study. So I would hope that their expertise, their knowledge in that field is weighted more than somebody else, and maybe reversed in a different scenario.
Is there a way to tell if this conclusion is not accurate?
I think a lot of it is kind of a gray area or on a little bit of a spectrum. But I personally, bringing it back into my world, if I continue to have back pain and back spasms and movement restriction while I'm doing these exercises, then I would have to abandon this idea that it's effective.
Okay. Let's say that you were doing the exercises and they continued to be effective. And you found out that the main reason that's supporting your confidence is either not a good reason, or if that reason was not available, would that lower your confidence? Would your confidence go down from 95 if the reason that you gave, which was the results of studies being conducted by accredited individuals, would your confidence go down?
So, just so I understand your question, like, for instance, the, whatever study that supported the book that I hinged my recovery on is discredited.
Mm-hmm.
But I still feel like the exercises have helped me.
Right.
Would I still be as confident in the in the exercises?
In the claim.
Even though it's not founded in science.
Yeah. In the claim. Yeah.
That's a really great question. I want to say no, but I think I want to say yes, it would affect my 95%, but I don't think that it would, because I think overall I would weigh my own objective results above most everything else.
Your own objective results?
Even if it's placebo, I guess.
Yeah, and you're at 95% importance.
I think it would probably decrease my 95%, but not tipping the scale into, sub 50s.
Yeah, and you're still at, it's 95% important for me to believe true things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be a little bit of a pickle, and maybe it's time to figure out what else I was doing. Maybe those exercises don't work.
Other explanations.
But was I doing something else? Was there another reason? But even if there's not a great reason for doing something, if I think that it helps in any way, I'll probably continue doing it until it's very hard for me to let go of things, I guess is what I'm saying. So for a while, I kept adding all these corrective exercises into my warm-up, and my warm-up was like 45 minutes of doing all these corrective exercises. And then I hired a coach, and the coach said, well, your warm-up's way too long. It should be way shorter. And it was really tough for me to let go of these drills that I had kind of convinced myself, like, I need to do these to move properly. So what does that mean? That we weigh our own experiences? That I weigh my own experiences above everything else? And that influences my beliefs?
What do you think?
I think, yeah, I just admitted to it.
That was awesome. Do you have any questions for me?
No, that was awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for participating.
Yeah,
That's great.
thanks for including me.
How do you feel about how, sometimes I like to get feedback.
Yeah.
How do you feel about how the talk went? Just any feedback about that?
I thought it was good.
Do you have a better understanding about the way in which you arrived at the conclusion? That's kind of my goal. Like, for both of us to have a better understand of your epistemology, the way you came to know this.
I think so. I think I have to kind of sift through what I want to believe, you know, like that I come to my conclusions in a very non-biased science way, and maybe some of them I do, but maybe some of them I don't.
And you're at 95. It's 95% important for you out of 100 to be believing true things.
Yeah.
I offer a one of these puzzle pieces. You can pick a color.
I got the one that you gave me.
You got
in the
one. You can
beginning.
take that one, or you can take one of these other colors. It's up to you. But the idea is that next time we have a chat, you'll get another piece, and then you can build out the whole set. So that's
Cool.
kind of a roundabout way of saying I would love to have another conversation like this with you sometime.
Sure. Sounds great.
So yeah, well, I think we're starting to like this location. We're at Burfoot.
Cool.
Who else knows where we're going to be? But I have a YouTube channel called Sound Epistemology. This says Street Epistemology. That's the broader movement of what some of us are doing. Like I said, it's a way to have a conversation in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Especially with topics that might be sensitive.
Sure.
So you could maybe imagine how asking these particular types of questions about how you came to the belief instead of whether the belief is true or not can be maybe a more productive way of talking about things.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to bring a more controversial topic.
Well, that's the cool thing. It can be about anything.
Yeah.
It can be any truth claim. And you can use this sometimes with talking to folks that sometimes the conversation doesn't go very well,
Yeah.
because instead of focusing on how they arrived at something, you tend to focus on, well, this is my side and that's your side.
Yeah. You're challenging
hash it
my
out.
idea
Right.
or my views.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of giving you the space to challenge it on your own.
Yeah.